Good morning. Welcome to Pathways Podcast. I'm Aaron Groves, and I am joined by a very special guest this morning, JC Risewick.
Hello.
Thanks for making the drive over from Des Moines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy. Cruise control and, listen to podcasts actually on the way.
There we go.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to?
I like, there's one by Biola Church in California. I think it's called Think Biblically. That's pretty good. I listen to that quite a bit. Yeah.
Right on. So,
Aside from this one.
Aside from this one, yeah. And how many episodes have you listened to of this one?
This might be my first one. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. But no, thank you for coming over. I've gotten to know you a little bit through Impact Iowa's Heroes and just your willingness to serve on that board, and I'm learning more about you. You sent me your bio, so you're a dad.
Yep.
You're a husband. You're a son. But you were also CEO of a company called Seneca. Is that correct?
Yes, I was until we sold that company in January of 24.
Yep.
So I transitioned out of that over the course of the last year.
Gotcha.
So I'm now the chief strategy officer
Yep.
for that company.
Do you find that a less stressful role?
Yeah, significantly less. Yeah, it's been good.
Right on. And what does Seneca do?
So Seneca is a construction and service company. We build gas stations primarily.
Yeah.
So like Come and Goes, Casey's, Mavericks, Hy-Vees, all those around the Iowa area.
Yep.
But we did that from Utah all the way to the Carolinas and kind of everywhere in between. So
Wow.
we had about 450 employees at the time we sold it. So gas stations were the primary business. We'd build and construct those, but then we would also provide the parts and equipment and then service them after the fact. And then we do some environmental consulting for them, kind of everything they needed. Over the course of 50 years, the company was founded in 72 by my dad, actually. So it was a family-owned business until we sold it.
Yeah.
And so everything that you can imagine around like a fueling system, we do that for airports, we do that for bus barns, cities, municipalities, anybody that was fueling something, we would do. And then we sold the company to a private equity firm in January of 24 that was investing in the space, and they had bought several companies that were like Seneca and rolled them up into a larger entity. I think they've got 4,000 employees now at this point.
Wow.
And they added electric vehicle charging into our repertoire. We kind of dabbled in that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a big space for us. Being in our geographies, there wasn't a lot of it.
Yeah.
So now they're coast to coast, I think with the exception of California, Washington, and Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said 450 employees at the time you guys sold.
Yeah.
What was that like? So as a CEO, I mean, everybody falls under your responsibility.
Yeah.
What was it like handling the stress day to day of being in that position where everything falls under you?
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like you got to carry the weight of all of it. And there's a lot of leadership mantras out there, right? And some of them, I think there's lots of good nuggets out there you can take from it. Everything rises and falls on leadership. I used to say that a lot. So as being the leader and the CEO, you would set the table, right? And how you came to work and how you came to meetings was how everybody else would kind of follow a little bit. It's just kind of naturally how it happens.
Yeah.
Some will push you a little bit. That's what you want. And then I appreciated that in a team. So you got to build a team that's willing to push you, challenge you, have debates in the meetings. You don't want people sitting in the room that just tell you yes all the time,
Right.
Because I'm clearly not as intelligent to just do the whole thing, right? You need people that can challenge you and grow the thing with you. So that was one, but then you start to feel the weight a little bit of that, and over time, all the hard decisions come to you.
Yeah.
Most of the time, when people have difficult things they have to do, or a customer's upset, if it gets to the point where they don't feel comfortable making the decision or the choice, they come to you, and then it gets really lonely at the top too, as they say.
Yeah.
So you'd get a little stressed about that. I think I learned better discernment over the years, right? Like, things usually don't turn out as bad as you think they're going to turn out. But over the course of time, I started incorporating more faith into those leadership mantras to say, okay, what does God want me to do in this situation?
Yeah.
No matter how challenging or how difficult it may be, how does God want me to treat this particularly challenging situation or this challenging person or this customer or whatever it may be? So I started, this happened more, I'm kind of getting more into my faith story as this combines to this, but about COVID era, which is probably a story similar for a lot of people, it changed a lot for me because that was just unprecedented. Nobody had been through that.
Yeah.
Our customers were delaying or canceling construction projects. most of our 450 people are field people. They're out in the field building stuff, they're fixing stuff, they're servicing things, they're doing jobs. We had some administrative office staff, but not much. So everything grinds to a halt, and you've got 450 people that and their families that you you got to feed,
Yeah.
keep employed. We don't want to lose them all, but then you have no income coming in, which is the story for a lot of folks. And you know, despite how big and critical mass we had, you might have 8-9 months of cash to operate at that capacity before it's just you got to close the doors. You can't
Yeah.
even turn the lights on anymore. So I leaned into God a lot more at that time. I would say I kind of had a lukewarm faith leading up to that, because if I had a problem, I could usually fix it, or I had somebody that could help me fix
Sure.
it, or I could just go on Amazon and buy the fix, right?
Yeah.
um, so, but at that point, I mean, it needed a lot more help, right?
Yeah.
We're dealing with people's lives. People are scared. Are they going to get sick? Are they going to die? Or is the business going to be around? What's going to happen?
Yeah. I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Talk
Yeah.
talk to me about your faith and getting up to this point. You said it was
Yeah.
a lukewarm faith. So, do you remember, do we raised in a Christian home, or did you have an encounter with Jesus at some point in your life? Do you remember? For me, it was just like this. I don't have that encounter. It's just kind of like this steady progressive thing over time. But what was it like for you?
Yeah, it was very similar to that, I would say. And when I say lukewarm faith, when I describe when I went to Pakistan, then I'm seeing something that's not lukewarm. And
Yeah.
now I'm kind of trying to aspire to be that.
Yeah.
But you don't realize it until you see that sort of thing. So I grew up in a Christian home. Pretty typical story, I would say. My parents were believers. We go to church on Sundays and Wednesday nights. Me kind of reluctantly, possibly as a kid. My favorite thing to do was to work at the Christmas tree lot that our church had at Christmas time, and I'd sell Christmas trees, and I had a great time doing that. But I don't know that it was necessarily, hey, people are coming in, we're talking to them about Jesus, right?
Right.
This is a volunteer activity. It was great, so I was definitely involved in the church, and then I went to Dowling Catholic High School in Des Moines. So obviously it's a Catholic school, so there's a faith-based orientation to that.
Yep.
So I had my first real exposure into studying the Bible, really, at church and Sunday school and Wednesday nights. We'd kind of dabble into it, but it wasn't really, religious studies or history or things. So I started doing that in high school. Found that kind of intriguing. I really liked the history and learning why we believe what we believe. So, but as a high school student, I get close in the walk, and then I went to college, and then kind of went away a little bit, but didn't lose it all. Right,
Yeah.
I was still there. And then graduated from college, and I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, so public school. No, I didn't go to a religious college or anything. Took a few religious courses, really liked the history of it. Then graduated, I moved to Minnesota and had a sales job. Didn't know anybody, so I got a job at a bike shop to kind of meet people. Ended up meeting a good friend of mine who I'm still friends with today. He lives up there still. I live down here, but we get together every once in a while. We were just out in Colorado together, hanging out a couple weeks ago, in fact. But he went to a church in Woodbury, Minnesota, and he had a little bit more of a stronger upbringing, I would say. Just more involved in the church, more involved in doing Bible studies at a young age, things like that. So he and I became best friends at the time, and I started going to church with him and doing Bible studies, and we were singing in the choir. We'd actually go camping one night, and we'd come back, hadn't showered, smelled like campfire, and we'd be singing in the choir at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and it was great. I loved it. Met great friends, and started walking closer in my faith in that regard. So,
Yeah.
And then kind of walked a little bit away a little bit. Then when I came back, I met my wife in Minnesota. I think you mentioned it, but we've been married 16 years.
Okay.
We have 3 kids, 14, 12, and 9. So it's been a wonderful experience. But after I got married and had kids, it was more, hey, how do I be a good dad? How do I be a good husband? There's lots of good examples out there. I can read lots of books, but there's really one good father, right? There's the
Yeah.
perfect example. That's God
Yeah.
and his son, Jesus. So this is where I should really try to model myself. And I really felt like super overwhelmed, like totally inadequate to live up to this standard. So how do I do all that, right? So I took the next 10 years kind of trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Would you
So-
say that, Anne, when you met her and you guys got married, would you say that your marriage was built on Christ at that time?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we did premarital counseling through our church, and we learned a lot through that. But I wouldn't say it was foundational like it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So we've grown a lot in our faith, in
Yeah.
our marriage today. It's definitely faith based. We do Bible studies together now. We're hosting a small group at our house on Sunday nights.
Nice.
We mentor other couples too. We know Gary and Barbara Osberg from Des Moines that
Yeah.
do marriage counseling. They're involved in Impact Iowa, so
Yep.
they've been helping us kind of do a little bit of that too. So, and you, you and your wife get
Yeah.
involved in that. So,
Yeah.
it's been a little bit of a passion of ours. So we've
Mm.
kind of grown in that over time. So, yeah.
So did you feel like you and Ann, like you were talking about, you knew you needed this example of a father. Do you feel like you guys, I don't know, I don't want to say recommit, but went on this journey of just going deeper in your faith together?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. One of the toughest things we went through was selling our business. Took a lot of effort, a lot of time. It was a family company, so
Yeah.
family involved. A lot of, I mean, we poured our hearts into this thing over the years, and those 450 employees were all like family to us.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't say that just because that's what you have to say. They really were,
Yeah.
really cared genuinely about these folks, and that was a hard thing to do. And that was something that part of the faith journey. God, what do you want me to do with this?
Yeah.
Is my time here done? Do you want me to move on to something else? And spent a good chunk of a year trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I kept praying for lead path straight, like make my path straight. They didn't feel very straight, but we would always get to the next point.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like you're not slamming a door. So
Yeah.
I learned straight paths doesn't mean easy and comfort. The path might be straight, but it could be pretty rocky and
Right.
pretty difficult and bumpy.
And there's a refinement that goes with it too, right? Like a lot of our growth comes during hard times. Like that's that refining fire that, burns out the impurities in our life. And what would you say were some of those, I don't know, action steps or things that you committed to grow in your faith? You talked about you host a small group now, you do Bible studies, but early on, as you were like, okay, we need to do more. What were some of those first action steps that you guys took to be like, okay, we need to be more committed in this area. Here's how I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the first step was really just with Ann and I together, doing things together.
Yeah.
So I think the two of us realized for us to have like the marriage we wanted to have, we needed to involve God together. Like she would do her thing in her Bible studies and her group with her ladies, and then I would go do mine. And we were it was like we were walking parallel, but kind of not really, and we didn't converge those two things. And then I think we realized why are we not doing this stuff together? Why are we not praying together, for example? And I remember the first time I suggested that, she's like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And then we're just laying there in bed because we were talking. I go, "Why don't we pray together?" Okay, let's do that. And then we kind of, stare up at the ceiling. Like, okay, you want to say something? You want to say something? And I remember going, "Why is that so hard to pray with my wife? I don't understand why that's so hard." And I thought, man, this should be, I can go pray with these guys in my small group or my Bible study, super easy. But why is that so hard to be so vulnerable with my wife in that? So that was a moment where I realized, okay, the two of us need to be closer in our faith journey together.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some studies together. We're going to focus on praying at dinner with our family. We're going to focus on praying before we go to bed, and just started small and then started moving to where we are now.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So, so 2020 comes, you really lean in your faith. I ran into you 8 months ago when I just happened to show up at Seneca. Just by chance you were there, and we ran into each other. And you tell me about Pakistan.
Sure. Yeah.
And so lead me through that story. Like how, first of all, the ministry is called Exodus 5:1. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. And it's, I looked it up. It's where Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh and say, "Let my people go."
Yes.
Yep. How did you come to get involved with that organization?
Yeah. So it's totally a God story because it's not my organization. It's a good friend of mine. And I was in a group called, I might take this back a little further because I love the way God knits a story together.
Yeah.
So I joined a business group called YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, back in 2013. So you're under 50 at the time, you run a company of a certain size, certain employees, certain revenue, you're eligible for membership in this organization. You apply, and then there's small groups, there's resources, peer learning, those sorts of things. So at the time, I was in a smaller group with a good friend of mine who lives in Grimes, actually about 5 minutes from where we live now. He was a great mentor of mine for a while. Then he graduated out of that group, meaning you turn 50 and then you kind of you're out of that small group. We kind of grew apart for about 6-7 years, and then COVID happened, and he was always like the faith guy
Yeah.
in our small group, because it was a secular group. It wasn't a religious studies or Bible study. But I decided, hey, I need to get back closer to the walk here, consult with God. I don't know how to do some of these things. And I remember, this guy was a really good example of that, and I want to be more like that.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him and said, hey, it's been like 5 years since we've talked. I'd love to just grab lunch, and here's what I'm kind of struggling with and going through. And he said, hey, well, why don't you just come over? I have this men's group that I'm hosting every Friday around lunchtime at my house. Like, and he lives 5 minutes from me. There's no reason I can't go do this. So I went to his house and met these great group of guys they're good friends. And my friend Brandon McNace, who founded Exodus 51, was a part of the group. And this was like January, February of 21. And he hadn't really started Exodus 51 yet. I like telling his story, part of it because it's so good, but he was working for Principal Organization in Des Moines, and he was relatively high up at the time, and he just felt a calling out of that organization. I'll let him tell the story sometime, but he felt a calling out of that, literally just quit, didn't know what he was going to do, went into ministry and just started preaching, and he's totally got a gift for preaching. And so I met him right about the time that happened. So I've gotten to walk alongside him with his whole story since he's been doing this, seeing how he was called into Pakistan as a wild, crazy story from Grimes, Iowa, to free Christian slaves over there. I got to walk through that with him, and hearing the story, hearing him talk and telling how he got involved with it. I mean, just God's hands are just so all over this, and the miracles and the things that he would see. And after a couple years of hearing this and hearing his stories and the things that he's changed in his life, and he's brought a couple people over there too to experience it. I just, every time I'd pray in the morning and go through my quiet time, I call it, and reading a devotional and what have you, I'd pray, and Brandon would always come into my mind, and Pakistan would always come into my mind. And I said, well, God, what do you want me to know about that, right? I mean, I can easily go out and help raise money. I can write a check myself. How do you want me to be involved with this? And then about 6 or 7 times I would hear, you should go because he's asking you to go.
Did you resist it at first?
I did, because it's not a safe place. It's not like a tourist area, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, so why would I go over there, right? And what am I going to tell people that, hey, I want to go to Pakistan? We're going to be an hour and a half from Islamabad, where they caught Osama bin Laden. We're going to be in Lahore, which is not much nicer either, and it's a really unfriendly part of the world. How do I explain this to anybody that I want to go with this guy? And this isn't like a YWAM or those are great organizations too, but they are very well put together. They're very organized. After a number of years, they have the safety security teams over there.
Right.
Brandon does a great job, and he's got safety security teams over there, but it's still very much like a startup organization.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into an unfriendly place with like an entrepreneur. We're just getting started. And so that was on my mind. I'd pray about it, but I kept it to myself for a while because I just thought people are going to think I'm crazy if I
Did you share it with your wife?
Over there. I did eventually share it with her. I kept it from her too for a little bit, but I kind of dropped little subtle hints, to kind of dip my toe in the water and see if how she would react, before I said anything. And then finally I said, I think God's really calling me to go over there. And I think she looked at me, and she could see it in my eyes and my face, and just she knew. And she actually told me, she said, I wondered if that was going to happen because I've been kind of feeling it too.
Affirmation.
And and that's always been, I shouldn't say always, in the last few years, that's been my rule. Like, if I feel like I'm being called for it, Anne's got to be in also. If she's not bought in or is not
100%.
feeling the call too, then it's a no go. It's a hard no.
Yeah.
Even if I feel really strongly about it, if she's not supportive, then it's a no go, and it's the same for her too. So,
What
to
a
my
beautiful gift, though, that God gives us because we have His Spirit inside of us. And
right,
in order to get confirmation, it talks about to become one.
right,
And so if you're truly being called, then the Spirit is going to talk to her the same way
right,
He's talking to you. What a
right.
gift.
It's a great litmus test. But then God knitting things together. The few years prior to that, we started focusing more on a godly marriage and praying together
Yeah.
and all that. So if we hadn't done that, I'm not sure that
Right?
we would have found ourselves in this position either. But she was supportive of it. I was actually really surprised. She's certainly scared about me going over there, spending the time, halfway across the world. What if you get kidnapped? What if you get, killed? Obviously, is a terrible fear over there. But there's lots of bad things that could happen. What if you get stuck in the country? You can't get out. So she was she was so supportive. I thought, okay, now I kind of have to go. So I'm gonna go. And why am I going? I don't really know. But
Because you were called.
yeah, this is the next step. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to be obedient and go. So I'm going to buy the plane tickets. I'm going to, Brandon was planning a trip. When's it going to happen? All that stuff. So we bought the plane tickets. We knew we were going. So this was last December when we ended up going.
So December of 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So was this a 2-year kind of battle internally of like the call, or was it like a 1 year? Like, how long were you there? Like, till God told you needed to go from that first time to actually doing it in December of 24.
It was probably 2 years or so. You start feeling a little bit of the itch, or a little bit of the whisper in your ear. And I just kind of brush it off. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I got this company I got to run. I'm traveling for work. I got kids stuff. There's no way I can pull this off, and that's crazy anyway.
Yeah.
And then God said, "Hey, I want you to sell this company. I'm done with you here for now." So now that we had that sold and it had been almost a year, I had found myself, okay, I don't have that big requirement or that excuse. Maybe is a
You
better
removed
word.
your excuse you had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you can go, and your wife's supportive. My family was supportive. My parents were too. They were kind of reluctant about it. But man, it was a great story talking to them. And when you tell people you're going to go and you commit to it, they realize it's a calling for you. They're supportive, but they treat you a little bit different. All of a sudden, they're like, "Hey, am I going to see you again?"
Yeah.
And so you had some interesting conversations with folks. I didn't feel that way. I'm sure I'm coming back. This is
Yeah.
a non-issue. But we had some nice conversations with some folks that told me things that in a moment like you might not see somebody again. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'd be hard for a parent
Yeah.
to see their kid go over there in the midst of, uncertainty and danger. And
Yeah. We don't have military escorts over there. We don't
Right.
have local police, will help you. And there's a local team over there that Brandon has. But they have Soviet era AK-47s with electrical tape on them. I don't even know if they would fire
Yeah.
or hit the broadside of a barn if they tried, And the government over there is, can you trust it? Can you not?
yeah.
It's not like here necessarily,
Right.
where there's some natural things in place where you can feel like you can at least trust your safety. Over there, who knows?
Right. Right. So when did you learn about Exodus 51 and what the actual mission was? Was that as you were walking with your friend and he was really exploring it? Like, were you a part of those conversations of like, this is what I'm going to do with him? Or did you basically learn after you committed to go over there what you were going to be doing?
I had a pretty good idea what we were going to do
Yeah.
when we went over there for the trip. They free Christian slaves. So
Talk about that.
yeah,
Slavery today in Pakistan, what does that look like?
yeah. So they are the technical term is indentured servitude. So if they are enslaved over there, they treat them like slaves. So they owe a debt, though. They had a medical bill, or they couldn't pay something, and the slave owner would pay that debt, and then they are now indentured to that owner. But they'll never be able to pay that debt off, whatever it is. So,
And why
'cause
is that?
the slave owner will charge them food and living expenses while they're there, and they don't give them enough money to ever be able to pay
Right.
off the debt. There's no books over there either. They're not keeping track of any of
Right.
that, and it's generational. So a lot of the people that are slaves over there have been their families have been
So they're just
slaves
born into
for
it.
4 or 5, 6 generations sometimes.
Wow.
So there are grandparents in some cases. Most of them don't live very long. So when you see an older person on one of these, we call them brick kilns, and I'll explain what that is here in a minute. You don't see old people there very often because the conditions are so terrible. But you'll see 2-year-olds in diapers making bricks,
Hmm.
and you'll see their family and others. And I've got a few specific stories I can share about this. But there are 20,000 brick kilns in Pakistan,
20,000.
give or take. Yep. And they make bricks just like they did in Egypt when Moses was
Hmm.
freeing the Israelites. The same exact way. They make them by hand. They use straw and hay. They have the kiln is built above ground, and there's a big smokestack that comes out of it. They put the bricks in, and they have fire with coal, and they burn it real hot. But it's really an unstable environment. Sometimes they walk on top of the kiln, and it caves in, and they fall in, and they burn up. Or they make the slave owner mad, and they'll throw them in the kiln and
Wow.
burn them up like you know
Shadrach, Meshach. and
yeah,
Abednego.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly that story. The slave owners are terrible people, but they'll beat the children, they'll beat the women, they'll rape the small girls and women. Sometimes in front of the husbands just to show them they're the boss. It's a terrible, terrible thing. They don't really let them have any medical treatment per se. They feed them. It's like a handful of rice a day, and they're working for 10 to 14 hours a day in the hot sun. Over there, 120 degrees in the summer is not abnormal.
Any idea how much they make a day? Like to pay off?
No idea.
No idea.
Yeah, nothing.
Not much.
Not material enough to
Yeah.
matter. Yeah. So that's the generally speaking how this works over there. But the whole economy over there is really built on these bricks, right? Every building there is made by these bricks that are made by these slaves. So every building repair, every new building, and they're all made by these bricks. So it's a little bit of a economic problem for the country because this is how everything's done.
Right.
And they're all Christian slaves too. They're not anything other than that. And
How do you find out they're Christians?
what do you mean? How do you know?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you know, like, say, a Christian slave versus a non-Christian or non-believer?
Oh, sure. So in that country, or in a Muslim cannot own another Muslim or have them
Okay.
as an indentured servant. So there might be a couple Buddhists or other religions, but the
Yeah.
vast majority of these folks are
Christians.
Christian. The team on the ground there, alerts you to this, and then
Hmm.
but they're all are Christ followers, and I'll just tell this story too, but because you may be going, okay, so if they're all Christians, right, wouldn't it just be easy to, well, hey, I'll convert to Islam?
Hmm.
Because if the law says you can't own me,
Right.
if I convert my family to Islam, then I'm free, right?
Right.
And that's true. That's actually a true answer. So this is probably a good time to tell this story. But when we were there, we would go visit brick kilns, several of them, and they're all out in the country. They're like on farms, like plantations. So we'd drive around for a long time and go visit several of them, and we'd free slaves at each one we were at. So
And you sent me a
yeah.
video. They're massive.
Yeah.
They are big operations.
They're huge operations.
Yeah.
Yeah, several hundred people at some of them.
Yeah.
So
Sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. We were visiting one particular brick kiln, and this place was particularly evil. You can walk into a place or just get this just feels there's evil
Yeah.
taking place here, worse than even some of the other ones we had visited while on our trip, and it really kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies, but a little more than that. So we're walking around, and there's a guy sitting on the ground, and he's got a bandage from his ankle up to his knee, and he's just sitting there because he can't walk. And his family is over there, and he's just watching them. So he's got, I can't remember exactly, I think he had 3 daughters and 2 boys and his wife, and they were all making bricks. and they're making bricks, and they have to fill his quota too because he's not able to make bricks, so that falls on them. And his daughter was probably about 12, like my daughter's age, and she had polio. And so we go over and they're making bricks, and I go over and talk to him. We had a translator, and what happened? What happened to you? You got this bandage on your leg. And he said, "Oh, I was bitten by a snake about a month and a half ago." And a snake over there is not like a gardener snake here. It's a viper. It's a cobra. It's something bad. Venomous snakes. So we said, "And have you received medical treatment for this?" And somebody came to the kiln and did something. Who knows? Nothing that helped. So he hadn't gone to see the doctor, and this slave owner was just going to let him die, basically. This was, so he peeled away the bandage, and you could smell the gangrene, the nastiness, and it was all like rock hard. We asked him to touch it with his finger, and it wasn't. It was just, this thing is rotting off, and he would eventually died, and the slave owner just didn't seem to care. And I'd shaken his hand before, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this guy's got gangrene in his leg, and I just shaked his hand, like, don't touch your face, like, who's got hand sanitizer, right? I'm going, holy smokes. And then I asked him, I said, and his family's over there, his daughter's got polio, she's struggling to get stuff done. And I have to ask I don't know if it's a dumb question or not, but I just have to ask. So I asked the translator to ask him, why wouldn't he just convert to Islam or convert his family to Islam? And the translator talked in their native language, and the look on his face, I'll never forget it, but he looked up at me and was just dumbfounded, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, had this, huh? And he said back to the translator in the native language, and then the translator said, well, Mr. JC, he said, why would I do that to God? And I'm like, holy cow. That's when I talk about the lukewarm faith that I've had before, and you just see somebody with that type of faith. I don't know that I would have, if I'm sitting there with a snake bite like that, my leg's going to rot off. I'm probably going to die. My daughter's over there with polio. She and my other daughters are getting raped almost on a daily basis. My wife is too. To have that much faith in God, I mean, that's about as awful as it gets. And then we talked to him more, and he said, yeah, we're just waiting to die. I'm ready to die, and I want to die. And you don't really hear that very often on these brick kilns either. People still have hope. He lost all of that. So we certainly freed that family and took care of them.
What does that look like?
So when you free a family or you free a person over there, like, I'll just start with some of the logistics, but you offer to pay their debt. And by law, if you offer to pay the debt that person owes, the slave owner has to accept it. They can't deny that. But there's no records, like I said, so nobody really knows what these people owe. So it becomes a negotiation. And initially, when they got started, they would bring backpacks full of cash, and they would negotiate on site with these people or with the slave owners. Now, they have a local team that goes in ahead of time and kind of picks out where who the people are, and it's tough. Like, how do you decide, right? You just want to free them all, right? But 4 million people is a big task. So you negotiate with the slave owners. On average, it costs about $250 to free one person, plus another $50 or so to feed and house them for 6 months, if that's necessary. So give or take $300 to free one person. So you free a family times 4 or 6 or however many are in their family. That's what it costs. And I was dumbfounded when I first heard that. $250. I can't believe that. How are we not doing more here?
Yeah.
Right? 4 million times 250 is a big number if you're going to get rid of all of them or free all of them. So now, before they negotiate all this beforehand, but if we're over there and we see a family like this that wasn't on their list to start, we have enough that we've raised to go over there to say that we've got to get these people out now. We want to get them out now, and that was one of the situations. So we then you just let them know they're going to be free, right? And the daughter came over with polio. She came over, and she was kind of having a hard time walking over. So I walked over to her. She just kind of falls into me, and she just leans into me, and I just had to pick her up because she wasn't able to really stand anymore on her own. I pick her up. I can feel the bones in her back. She was that malnourished, and she just laid her head on my shoulder, and I'm going, I've never experienced anything like this, I
What are you
just,
feeling in that moment?
just an overwhelming sense of, you know, I don't feel worthy enough
Mm.
to have the life is too easy for me. I don't have the faith that these people have, but I have so much more than they do. And then you have this overwhelming feeling of anger, like where's
Mm.
that slave owner? I'm going to go find that guy and take him out, you know? Um, not that not that I'm going to do that, but
Right.
boy, you
But
get
that's the feeling.
angry.
Yeah.
Um, and there's some element of like, why does God allow this to happen, right?
Mm.
But I will say, these people going through that like changed my life for
Yeah.
sure. And then us going over there, interacting with them, and freeing them changes their life. And now we're here having a
Yeah.
conversation, a podcast. Hopefully, other people find this inspiring too.
Yeah.
But it it did give me an incredible amount of joy to know that God did answer their prayers, and He's moving over there. Brandon's and his group have freed 15,000 people
Wow.
to date, which is a lot,
Yeah.
right? They've done that through some of it's the straight up $250 per person.
Yeah.
Some of it is they can get into a court case where, say, a slave owner murdered a slave, just straight up shot him point blank or threw him in a kiln. They cannot do that by law.
Right.
The problem was before the slaves really had no rights. They would have to bring a case to the court and pay. That may cost $5,000 or $50,000 to bring a case like this, depending on the size of it, to their courts. None of the slaves could ever afford that, so
Right.
they would just get away with it. Well, now that we're involved, we can bring those resources to bear and bring the hammer down on these people.
Yeah.
And when they go to jail, and we haven't lost a case yet, I don't know how many we've done, but every kiln they own and every slave they own goes free,
Wow.
which is a challenge on the system because if you free 1,000 people at a time, you got to have a place for them to go. You got to
Right.
feed them, But God has always figured out a way to get that done for us.
Yeah.
So it's not straight up 15,000 people times $250, but we have been able to have a lot of help with getting these court cases done.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you freed that family. What does reintegration look like?
Yeah, sure. So they part of what the organization does over there is they have a school and a church, and the school and the church are all in the same building. So what this does is allows when the kids are free, they have a place to now go get an education.
Yep.
And I got a chance to visit the school, and it was awesome. I mean, these kids, they're packed in there. It might be a room like this with like 30 or 40 kids,
Yeah.
all like this, right? But they are so happy to be there. They're learning, and they're learning. It's a legitimate learning. They have teachers. They have textbooks. They've got whiteboards. It's not much different other than being packed in there in a small space.
And did Exodus 51 acquire this school? Or
It existed prior.
okay.
So Brandon got hooked up with his team that's over there now. They were doing this on a smaller scale, but getting connected with us over here provides resources,
Right.
political support, whatever they might need
Yeah.
over there. So the school has grown. The church is on the top level of that. And they also teach them English, which isn't common in the public schools over there, or any school, for example. But that's one of the best things you can do is teach these kids English, because it opens up the whole world to them, basically.
Yeah.
They can stay and find a great job there, or they can even leave the country and they could come here even, I suppose. But
Yeah.
teaching them English is a big deal. And then the families, if housing is required for them, like this family with the father that had the leg, I think his leg was saved. Actually, I think we were able to save that. I mean, God, that's a miracle. 'Cause
Yeah.
I thought there's no way that's going to happen.
Right.
So I think it's saved. I'm not sure if he's playing football or anything yet, but he was able to save that, which is a big deal because him being able to work and
Provide.
provide and stuff
Yeah.
for his family is huge. So he was one that 6 months or so where you're going to provide housing and food in his family. That was one, but most of them, when they're free, as you can imagine, they're incredibly hard workers. That's all they've known is just working hard, too hard. So it's easy to find them another job where I shouldn't say it's easy. It's easier than you think
Yeah.
to get them employment, find them home, and then they have this church community in the school. So the other question we can ask is how many of them have fallen back into slavery, and the answer is zero. None
Wow.
of them have gone back
Yeah.
because they have this. They have a community. They get a job for them, and they're just hard workers, and they're
Yeah.
going to keep after it.
Yeah. Have you heard any stories of like just success stories of like people that have been pulled out and now they're doing, you know, other things and they like you have you ever heard a follow-up story of like I don't know, just affirming and what you guys are doing and just like a yay God
Yeah,
story.
yeah. There was a couple we did. We met several of the freed slaves either at the school or the church, and they're thriving really.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful story. One of them, he was freed a year ago, prior to when we got there in December of last year. His wife had died, and I don't remember if it was while they were in slavery or after, but she had died, and he had 3 kids, young kids that he was taking care of. And I think his oldest might have been 13 or 14. So he was struggling, trying to go to work, take care of them, get them to school, feed them, and all that stuff. But he had been saving up to buy a rickshaw, which is like a taxi over there, right? It's like a motorcycle with like the passengers sit in the back behind you, and you drive people around. And they're everywhere over there. That's how everybody gets around. So he was saving up to buy a rickshaw. I think these things were $4,000 or $5,000 or something. It would take him a while to do that, but he was struggling a little bit. But man, we had lunch with him. He was the best dad I've ever seen. I mean, he just loved his kids. He was super happy and thankful that he didn't have to make bricks anymore. His kids could go to school. I mean, it was just such a wonderful thing. But he was struggling trying to get this rickshaw money saved up. So we actually bought him a rickshaw while we were there and surprised him with it. After lunch, we walked out into the parking lot of the restaurant we were in, and there was this shiny new rickshaw, and this is yours. And he just broke down crying. I mean, with the most amount of joy I've ever seen from anybody, cry happy. It was so wonderful. His kids were super excited, their smiles, and it was like Christmas Day for everybody.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The funny thing was we actually had to teach him how to drive it. So, well, here you go. I don't know how to drive it. So, okay, we better figure that out here before we let him leave the parking lot. So we did some laps around the parking lot with him, and, he picked it up super quick. And then, watching his family go off, and his kids were ears to ear in the back. And, there's some wonderful stories like that. So,
Did you go over there thinking, I'm going to bless some people? I've been on multiple mission trips overseas, and to be in those environments, to see how they live and to see their faith. I think for people that do it for the first time, they think, well, I'm going to go bless people. But, man, the first time I went to Africa, I was blessed. Like, being a part of that and delivering goods and sharing the gospel and loving on people. But, like, my heart was changed, and I was blessed tremendously. Did you go over there thinking, okay, I'm going to be blessed, or was it the mindset like I'm over there to free slaves and bless others?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. All the prayer that I'd done up to that, what I was asked, what do you want to get out of this trip? What do you want to see or experience when you go? And what I kept landing on or hearing from God was, I want you to see me in a different way. I want you to experience me in a different way. I didn't really know what that meant until I came back and a few months later had to reflect on it. But that was what I wanted to do, was I wanted to see God in a different way. I mean, like I explained on my background, we've done some other missions trips. We've gone and built homes for Hope, served as soup kitchens here locally, done a few other things, but nothing ever like this.
Yeah.
So that I want to experience God in a different way. So there was part of that, but the other part of this, which this is a good story to share. I don't know if it makes me sound like a good person or not, but it was kind of where that vanity in your heart or the pride that we all have. We would raise money for this trip, to go free as many people as we can.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a competitive person, and I wanted to. We're going to free the most people. We're going to free more people than they've ever freed on any trip before, because I'm going to go out and raise a bunch of money, and I'm going to help do this. And so that prideful nature was there for me. Not like it was a bad thing. I mean, the outcome is great. You can free a bunch of people, but So I made it a personal mission to raise as much money as we can and free people. On this trip, we did free the most they'd ever freed. It was 189 people on this one
Wow.
trip. And but the funny thing was, I was talking to Brandon throughout this, and at one point, we're not getting there. We were probably about $15,000-$20,000 behind, and we had a few weeks to go. And I remember at one point just going, you know what? I don't care if we don't raise the money, Brandon. I'll just write the check. I don't care. I'll do it. And I talked to my wife about that, and she was not on board with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And oh boy, and she just called me out on the prideful nature of that. And she goes, "Is that why you're going? You know, that's not what you told me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, that's a sign of a good marriage where your wife can tell
Yeah.
you that." So I went back and prayed about it, and I said, "Man, my pride was really hitting me hard on that one." And I could have written the check,
Yeah.
but I said, "God, what do you want me to know about this?" And he said, "This is what I heard." He said, "JC, you need to see what I can do over there without your help.
Mm.
Do you think I need your help over there? I don't need your help. You need to see what I can do without your help." And that was huge because I've always, in my career, in my in business or other things, I've always just bootstrapped it and just done it myself,
Yeah.
or at least that was my feeling, right? Like, hey, I'm smart enough, I'm strong enough, I know enough people, I can get this done. So I let back and I let it go, and God still came through, and we had more money than we needed.
So he came through without you.
Yeah, he did it without me. Yeah, he didn't need my help. Gosh, shocker. And but man, what a great lesson for me to learn. To put my faith in that. So it became not about what I did; it became about what God did on this trip for me.
So you came back and you said a couple months later you really reflected on seeing God work in a new way or experiencing him in a new way. What other ways did you see him
Yeah,
in a new way?
yeah. So I'd tell a couple stories. That's one of them. Is just to see that God can do these wonderful things without my help.
Yeah.
Right? He'll use me, but I have to be open to being obedient to him first, and then watch him work through me. But it's not about me. I'm just a vessel for this.
Mm.
And boy, it's so much more rewarding when you realize I'm not. This is God working through me, and a blessing and an honor to be somebody that God's using to do something like
Amen.
this, and just being a part of it. One of my favorite stories from seeing God in a different way from this trip was I mentioned that brick kiln where the guy had the bandage and the family, and we freed them. It was an evil place. Just
Yeah.
felt it, right?
Yeah.
The slave owner and a couple of his cronies were standing up on a hill the whole time we were there, and they were drinking. And they had guns. They were kind of waving them in the air a little bit, trying to intimidate us. I didn't feel unsafe. I didn't feel like at any moment I'm going to get shot.
Yeah.
But they were for sure trying to intimidate us. A part of what we do when we're over there is we host church services on the brick kilns. So, and it's at night. So they'll work 10 to 14-hour days, and then they'll come to a church service. And we host it on the kiln so that the slaves can get to it.
Do slave owners have to let you do it?
Yes, they do. And they don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
right? For obvious reasons. It gives them hope.
Right.
They see people being freed. They know that they have a real shot, and we're these Westerners that come in.
Yeah.
And it's a real threat to these slave owners. So they don't like it.
Yeah.
And so we got back in the van after leaving that kiln, and I said, "Where are we hosting our church service tonight?" And they said, "We're coming back here." I said, "We're coming back here? This is the most evil place I've ever been in my life." The slave owner and his cronies were standing there drinking already at like 2 in the afternoon, waving guns around. We're going to come back and host a church service? I mean, are we poking the bear here?
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go off, and I'm just like terrified, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going, holy man, I can't believe we're going back to this. We're going to do this. But God's going to be there. It's going to be okay. And I was kind of at peace with it, but still just, I'm nervous, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a martyr here. I don't want that story to tell.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we go visit that was the same day we went and visited the school and the church that they have in town, where all the freed kids and all the freed slaves come and worship and go to school. So we had a church service there that day. So we're there in the building upstairs, and they wanted us to come up on stage. And I'm an introverted person, and I can tell a story that I know really well, but I'm not like great running around talking to people and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was strange for me to be up on stage, and and these they're singing and doing worship songs, and you just get into it and you dance
Yeah.
with them, and this is totally out of my element,
Yeah.
right? But they love it, and you're praying for them, and everything's going crazy. At one point, everybody's praying over folks, and they're asking for healing. At one point, this lady, she comes up and asks for prayer, not from me, but one of the guys who was on the trip with us. He was a pastor too, and she just happened to come to him and asked him for prayer, and what for? She has spirits or something. And her eyes are darting around, and she says, "I have spirits," and you could just something's off.
Yeah.
So he lays his hand on her forehead and starts praying for her. Almost right away, she falls on the ground, and I'm standing there going, "Holy cow, is she okay?" And she starts rolling around, writhing around on the ground, just screaming bloody murder. I don't know, like impossible to fake it,
Yeah.
because it went on for a couple minutes. And I'm going, "Holy cow!" And the local pastor there, he grabs some holy water and he's throwing holy water on her and praying for her real loud, and she's screaming, and the whole church is just, this doesn't faze them.
Continuing on.
Yeah, I mean, if this happened in a Western
Right.
church, everybody would freak out and probably head for the
Right.
door. But everybody else is praying over her, and they're singing louder. And the next thing you know, she stands up. Her face is just totally calm. Her eyes aren't darting around anymore. She just steps back in and starts singing. And this is just a normal thing.
Hmm.
And I'm standing there looking at my buddy, and I go, "Did that just happen?" And he goes, "I don't know, man. I've never seen anything like that."
Yeah.
But it was like I saw an exorcism or something.
Well, it's biblical,
Yeah.
right? Jesus says you will cast out demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It was wild, but to continue on with the story, right? So at that moment, I thought, this is the first miracle I've ever actually seen.
yeah.
Like legit, like, demons getting cast out.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So I just felt I've got to pray. I'm nervous about going to where we're going tonight. I'm going to pray. So I close my eyes and start praying, and almost right away, like this image of this evil face, like the devil, is just right there in front of me.
Hmm.
And I'm like, why am I seeing that? And goosebumps all over. I'm like, I don't like this. It's smiling at me, and I can feel goosebumps right now, even telling the story. I'm going, what in the world? Why am I seeing this? I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the lights go off in the church. We're total darkness, right? Because there's only 2 windows in the place, and they had shades drawn. And I opened my eyes, and I thought, the lights went off. What's everybody going to do? Nobody stopped singing. Nobody stopped worshiping. In fact, they started singing even louder, right? As louder as it was. Okay, all right. I'll go back to praying. So I close my eyes again. The face comes back again. And I started praying again. Hey, just protect me from that. And I can't get this face out of my vision. All of a sudden, the room gets full of light because 2 guys had gone over to the windows and pulled the shades back. And sunlight, super bright sunlight, comes pouring in the room. The face just evaporates immediately. And then instantly I heard, "JC, darkness will not defeat my light. You're going to be safe tonight." I never experienced anything just clear, super clear as a bell in my head about that. And then we went to the church service that we were hosting on that kiln that night. Normally we'd be sitting up on a stage, but we were down on ground level with everybody. And there were about 8 or 9 kids that were sitting as far away as I'm sitting from you. And for whatever reason, these kids thought I was cool. I don't know. Maybe I thought I was some famous person or something from the West, but they were making faces at me, and I was, silly faces back at them. And one of them came and sat on my lap, and it was the best church service that we hosted, for me anyway. It was wonderful. These kids were amazing, and their parents came up, and they have iPhones and stuff over there. They were taking selfies with us, and it was a wonderful experience. But our security team ended up having to usher us out early because the slave owner and his buddies came back, and they were drunk at that time, and they were starting to cause a ruckus, and they just said, "This isn't safe for you guys." So we did have to hit the road pretty early. So anyway, that's maybe a little bit of a long story, but that's one of my favorite ones.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything like it since you've been back?
I wish I could say that I did. I think it's changed how I see the world around me a little bit. Maybe I have a little bit more empathy towards folks that might be going through something. Also, try to when I'm visiting with people, really try to hear more of a story within their story, because over there, just this is all they have. Jesus is their only hope, right? Even to the point where we would walk through and pray for everybody during the services, and they'd just be singing songs, and then we would go out and pray for everybody. So you're getting crowded around, and the story of the lady, just if she can only touch the hem of
Yeah.
Jesus's robe, she'll be healed, right? That's the type of faith they had, and they believed that we could do that, right? So they were super respectful, right? It wasn't crazy, but if they could just talk to you or get you to hold their hands and pray with them,
Yeah.
I mean, that level of faith, you were made well by your faith alone, right? I mean, that's how they are. Then you come over here, and we we try to put on more of a facade. If we're hurting, we don't want to talk about it. This
Yeah.
is my general feeling, because this is how I am. I don't necessarily want everybody to know that I'm going through something tough, because I'm supposed to have it all together.
Yeah.
My 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 marriage is supposed to be perfect. My kids are perfect. My job's perfect. No matter what's going on in my life, it's hard to be vulnerable like that.
Yeah.
So when I'm having a conversation with somebody, to really kind of listen for their story within their story,
Yeah.
and just be there for folks if they're going through something tough.
Why do you think, you talked about the joy and the kids after they're freed and the people, they have nothing over there. Relatively speaking to us as Americans, they have nothing.
Yeah,
Yet their level of joy
yeah,
seems to be so much more than we have here.
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Gosh, I mean, they don't have any other worries besides that.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah,
And I think it's like you said, we come back, and if we have problems, I think we have some sort of treatment. We have a doctor, we have a
Yeah.
counselor, we have all these things that we can go to. All they have is God.
yeah,
That's it. And they rely on him so much more
right.
than I think we do here in America. And I've heard a quote before of where there is freedom to express your faith, it seems like the movement and the power of the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit is decreased. Where it's more oppressive, where you're persecuted for your faith, the Holy Spirit seems to move more powerfully.
Yeah,
And I think people that go overseas on missions get to see that and experience that. And there's
Yep.
something too about being taken out of your environment and your comfort zone here and being supplanted someplace else. And I don't know, speaking personally, like, nobody knows me. I don't have to put on a face. I don't know. I just felt free to pray and to evangelize and to
Yeah.
just be used by God. Like, there was no distraction. There was no, again, persona that I had to
yeah.
keep up. And so, would you recommend, excuse me, to anyone that is feeling the tug of some sort of mission to do it?
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Um,
It will change you.
it'll change you. It's also just a little act of obedience too. Will
Mm.
change your life too, no matter what. Even if you just listen into it a little bit more, pray into it more. God called me to Pakistan. He's called Brandon there several times, and he's changed 15,000 people's lives.
Yeah.
But not only that, he broke the generational bonds.
Yeah.
15,000 times 4 or 5 generations of all those people. Right? He's changed the world for all of those people, and it's not easy for him to do that. It's not easy for anybody to go do that.
How does a guy like that stay humble? Because I mean, that's a big deal. Like, that's a
Yeah.
big accomplishment. And, he could very easily say, or even you could say, we freed the most people, and like you kind of said, like, you with your pride initially, but like, how do you stay humble in the midst of that?
Yeah, prayer.
Yeah.
Mostly if you sense it creeping in, just pray, and because God can remind you pretty quick too.
Amen.
And we all have pride. There's all a part of it. It's in there for all of us. So if you think you don't have it, you're probably in trouble. So just be as self-aware as you can. Ask God to reveal where you might have
Yeah.
prideful nature, because the stuff that you're unaware of is where it's the most dangerous.
Mm.
And I think for me, having an experience like I described, where this is gonna be about me, and I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna free the most people because of my effort, right? And then God just putting me back in my place. That's a significant life experience for me, to just say God doesn't need me
Yeah.
to do all these things, but how awesome is it that He's asked me to help?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
God will not force you, but He invites you.
Yeah,
And what a blessing it is when you answer the invitation.
that's right.
Um, Man, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
If people want to support
yeah,
Exodus 51, how would they do that?
yeah, yeah.
Website?
Yeah, website's a great way to do it. Exodus51.org,
Okay.
like the numbers 5 and 1, and I think you'll put it in the
Yeah, can we
podcast
put that in the
description.
description?
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and then so you can donate just to the mission directly. You want to free one person, $250, or
Yeah.
$5, 50,000, whatever helps, right?
Yeah.
Another part of their mission, what they're doing is they're working on acquiring some land in Lahore, Pakistan, which is where they're headquartered now. But they have the school, they have the church, but everything else is just all kind of everybody's out of their house or here or there. So we would stay in a local hotel. And like my wife going over, for example, that's not something that's possible
Yeah.
because of the culture, and having her go over would not be great. She'd be in danger. My kids would be a similar deal. Um, Having a campus and building a bigger school because they're bursting at the seams is a big deal.
Yeah.
Having a church there, having the team, having a safe place to go. Anybody that does want to come over to these has a safer experience, more like a YWAM or something else. They're working on building something like that. So they're acquiring this land now. That's step one. Then they have plans to build a building over there. The land over there is ridiculously expensive, though. It's like buying land over here.
Really?
For whatever reason. Everything else is cheap. You
Right.
can go feed 50 people at a dinner for like $100. But buying land is almost the same as here. So they've got a $4 million piece of land that they're working to buy. They've got a contract and they're making payments with it. So that's probably certainly freeing people and giving money for that. But this piece is also going to elevate the mission higher if they can get that done. They have I think their next payment's due at the end of October. I want to say October 24th. They have $66,000 that they have to raise before that. So if anybody feels led to help out with that, that'd be awesome. In any way, shape, or form for the next payment, or just helping get to the building as a whole would be really awesome. Or just freeing people. I know they're going on another trip here in October too.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can help with that and be directly a part of it. And it's just Brandon right now. There isn't a lot of, almost everything you give is going to free people.
Yeah.
Or build the mission over there so they have a
Yeah.
bigger school to accommodate more kids. But it's just him and then the folks that are over there.
Yeah.
And they're all volunteers, the people that are over there. They're just Christians that are trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
It's amazing.
yeah.
Before the podcast, I told you you could tell me pass on any questions. So,
Sure.
so what's God stirring in your heart now?
Yeah. I stepped out of my CEO role in January of this year at Seneca and stepped into just a formal chief strategy officer role. It really has pared my responsibilities way back there. That was a really tough thing to go through. It was a family business for 50 years. I ran it. I've worked there for 20 years, ran the company since 2017 until we sold it, and grew it and built it, and built this culture of family, and that was really awesome. It was a hard thing for me to get over with my identity, right? I didn't realize like the things that I was unaware of, like how much I was tied up in being the president and CEO of that company. That took a lot of time and prayer to get over. Who am I now?
Yeah.
If I'm not that.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, but it also allowed me to slow down a little bit. And I took I tell people we had the best summer as a family since I've had in 1994, which I was a teenager back then. So not to age myself here, but I was a teenager then. So to tell you that, I mean, it's the best summer we had. Awesome. It was the best. We took a couple months off. We have a camper, and we drove out to California and went to a few national parks there. I've got 3 kids and a dog, mind you, in a camper.
Yeah.
We lived in it for 25 days. And then we went to Colorado and hung out in Colorado for the next month and a half. And just allowed life to happen.
Yeah.
Didn't dive into anything. It was like a sabbatical, kind of like
Yeah.
an extended sabbatical for me. Really helped clear my mind a little bit. But the next thing, for Ann and I kept hearing, in part of my prayer too over the last year, I kept hearing God say, I want you and Ann to do something together. And I would tell her that, and she goes, well, what do you think that is? I don't know.
Right.
No idea. We'll see what happens, right? One step at a time, just little acts of obedience. And I should tell this story too, because it's kind of a nice God story. So one of the other acts of obedience that I had was in consistent prayer. I'd ask, I want to be a better father, a better husband, better everything. I just want to
Yeah.
be better in general. So how do I do that? And I kept hearing God say, I want you to stop drinking. And this wasn't like an alcoholic problem. This was just
Social.
every time you travel, you're out to dinner with customers or wherever, you have a glass of wine, to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, well, how do I stop doing that? Because everybody does that. And then if you're the one who's not, what do you tell people?
Yeah.
I hear that about 6 or 7 times, and I get, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. That's too difficult. So eventually, I just said, fine, I'll do that. And I went to my first work event, and just I'm going to have a non-alcoholic beer here. And really, you're not drinking? So the first couple times, I'd tell me, nope. Well, why not? They kind of grind your gears a little bit. Well, it's a health thing, or
Yeah.
I'd make up some story about why, that was totally believable. And then I'd go pray again, and I'd hear, why didn't you tell him the real reason? And I go, So, so then the next few times when people would ask me that, God's told me to stop. If I want to be a better dad and I want to be that, then I need to stop doing this. And then I had found myself in more just that act of obedience. Now I'm having Jesus conversations at work dinners, just because people ask me why you're not drinking. Because I'm the only one at the table and the only one in the room at 20 or 30 in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So that was a great opportunity. So that little act of obedience then leads to another one. God's going to – the other thing I heard him tell me is if you can't do this, then I can't use you for other things. And that's that hits you like a ton of bricks. Like, no, I want to have you use me for other things. It's scary to say that because who knows where he's going to lead you.
Right.
But I don't want to be stuck here. So it actually made the decision really simple when I heard that. And it was not hard, and it's been about 2 years now.
Nice.
So anyway, I can't remember why I told that story first. I thought that was nice. Oh, the obedience, and then Ann and I doing our thing now. So what are Ann and I going to do next? So our church, Valley Church in Des Moines, Gary and Barb Rosberg go there, who they're doing the Great Marriage Experience there. They've been marriage coaches, counselors for 40, 50 years or so, and they've got a great methodology built. And we got tapped to, because we know them through Impact Iowa and other things, to help become marriage champions, as they call them. And that's just be a resource for people who want somebody to talk to, not full-on coaches or anything. Ann and I talked, and I said, does this feel like this might be something that we could do together, like God might be calling us to do this? And she said, I don't know. I think so. And then over the course of the next several weeks, I think this is something we're going to do. So we're going through the process of being certified through that process with ICCI, International Christian Coaching Institute. I'm doing some stuff with through Grandview University. So we're going to become certified marriage coaches.
Nice.
We're also going to be executive coaches too.
Which you have experience in, right?
Yeah, we'll figure out where that goes. I mean, how do you sell a family business? How do you integrate a family into something? How do you build a culture? How do you create value for an organization, for shareholders, for family, for the employees, whatever? How do you deal with difficult employees? How do you fire somebody? It's it's not an easy thing to go through some of that stuff. So we're going to do that. I also serve on our State Board of Regents. I was appointed by Governor Reynolds in 2022, and I really enjoy doing that. That's a really awesome thing, despite some of the lightning rod events that take place as a part of that. I really enjoy that, so I think I'll continue doing that. I was reappointed this summer for another 6-year term. I had 3 years before that and 6, so that's where we're at today.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's amazing how God, like you said, knits together a story, right? And puts you through all these things to get you where you're at today. And how, 5 years ago, if would you ever imagine I'm going to be a marriage coach and an executive coach? Would that ever?
No, not at all. It almost sounds like an accidental career kind of.
Yeah. Or even 5 years ago, I'm going to send you to Pakistan to go free slaves.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild, right?
Yeah.
So, but I love the way he knits stuff together. Back when I was in my 20s and I was just getting started in my career, wasn't married, didn't have kids. I took a Dale Carnegie course, which is like a human relations principles course. Some folks might be familiar with who he was. He wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People in the 1950s, and It's a really influential book. Most people have heard of it. If you haven't, it's a great book. I recommend it. So anyway, I took their sales training course because I was wanting to be a sales rep,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a whole lot from that, and just decided, wow, I want to be one of these trainers. And I just walked up to the son of the franchise owner was in my class, and he's about my age, and I said, hey, I want to be one of these trainers. How do I do that? I don't know. Like, let's go talk to the office staff. And so I went and talked to them, and one thing led to another, and I became a trainer, and I was certified in that when I was 24. Did that for about 7 years, so I have this formal coaching
Yeah.
training experience already.
Yeah.
I haven't done that for a number of years now, so I'd be a little rusty at it.
But you got some foundation built there already.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I loved it,
Yeah.
So that was a part of the thing that kind of, okay, God's done all these things throughout my life, and He's had mentors in my life, and okay, maybe it's my turn to go be that. I got a little more gray in my beard now, so I'm not the youngest guy in the room anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my turn to go be mentored.
So I'm going to wrap this up, but one of the questions or one of the things we talked about was, several years ago, you struggle with who are you? What's my identity?
Mm-hmm.
So J.C. Risewick today,
Yeah.
what's your identity? Who are you?
Certainly first and foremost, I'm a Christ follower, right? I'll wear that on my sleeve. I'm not hiding it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing Bibles at people or anything either, wearing sandwich boards or anything, but people know that about me now.
Yeah.
So that's certainly an identity, and boy, does that lift. Whatever weight of anything else is super lifted off. So I think that's first and foremost the thing. I'm a dad. I love being a dad.
Yeah.
It's the best thing ever. Where I kind of almost didn't before. Kind of ashamed to say that, like I'm too busy, I'm too important, I got other things to do. I'll get to you when I have time.
Yeah.
And man, I'm kind of ashamed to even say that. But now it's not. Like those kids are a priority. Marriage is a priority. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, Christ follower. It's 5 years ago saying those things in that order.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have said that. What's my job? What's my title? And
Yeah.
that's my significance.
No, that's good. And I think that's the order you build your life upon too. I spoke to a group of first responders last week, and I talked about what's your priorities, and for me, it was my faith, it was my spouse, my kids, and then family and career and money was, it was on top, but meaning I'm not building my life upon it. But there was a time in my life where it was flipped around.
Yeah.
And, I medically retired, like I was done.
Yeah.
And so had my life been built upon my career and it got yanked out, everything else would have toppled over.
Yep.
But because everything was built on faith, marriage, family, it disrupted some things, but it was really quick rebuild.
Yeah.
As if my identity was in my job.
Yeah.
So, well, man, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your story. Powerful story. I'm so glad that we were able to hear and glorify God in this process of how He moved through you and how He's moving through Exodus 51 or 5:1. And so go check out that website. But I'd like to end in prayer for you if that's all right.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Father God, thank you. Thank you for this time and this space, Lord. Thank you for the testimony that you've given JC. Thank you for every hard thing that you have brought him through, every struggle, every identity crisis, every heartache and hard moment that he's had to go through, Lord, that has led him to where he's at today. Lord, we thank you that he took the time to listen to you and that you spoke to him, Lord. And you told him where to go, what to do, conversations to have, how to pour into his marriage, how to make his marriage a priority, Lord. And then going to Pakistan, serving in different capacities, Lord, and his obedience. Lord, we pray just a prayer of thanks for his obedience, his willingness to say yes. And so, Lord, we just pray that you use this testimony, use this story of how you've moved and how you've worked in people's lives to inspire others, to be still and to listen and to ask, what do you want to do with our lives, Lord? And then, Holy Spirit, we pray that you just give people vision, give people words, lay a calling on their heart, and then give them the boldness and the willingness to say yes. And then, Lord, may they experience your blessing, that fulfillment of knowing we've done what you've called us to do, Lord, and the joy that comes with that. And so, Lord, we pray. We also pray for Brandon. We pray for the ministry that you laid on his heart that is setting captives free in Pakistan, Lord. Lord, we pray for financial blessing over that ministry so that they can free as many slaves as possible. Lord, we pray for protection for them over there. We pray that you will go before them. We pray that your light will surround them so as they pierce the darkness, darkness can't even get close to them, Lord. Lord, we pray for the school and the homes that are being ran over there. We just pray that your spirit will be present and that your fruit will just be bore by the volunteers and the people serving, and that those kids will bear fruit as well, the love, the joy, the peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, Lord, that you promise us. And may they taste that fruit and just see that it is good. And may they praise you for it, Lord. And again, may you be glorified through it all. And so, Lord, just have your hand on that ministry, have your hand on the volunteers and the leaders of that ministry, and just go with them as they go to serve you and advance your kingdom. So, Lord, I pray over JC and Ann and his family. Just pray for protection over them. I pray that you will continue to use them in powerful ways, whether it's through ministry of marriage or coaching others, Lord. Just